Every Friday, I'll be sharing my underdog pick'ems here on my channel. I just started getting into this last week, and it's been a lot of fun so far. If you're interested in daily fantasy, stay tuned for all of my pick'em entries for week 3 of the college football season. If you're not into daily fantasy, well, maybe after watching this video, you'll be more interested. Last week was pretty solid, but it definitely could have been a lot better. Overall, my pick'em entries went 9 and 8. Anytime you finish over 500, that's considered a win, but like I said, there were a few in there that could have been winners as well. But yeah, overall, it was a successful week as we finished above 500, so these are the pick'em entries I like for this upcoming weekend in college football. But before I get to my pick'em entries for this weekend slate, make sure you get in on the action and win money this college football season with Underdog Fantasy. If you sign up using promo code Harris, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. That's up to $100 of free money that they're just giving you. You can choose anywhere from 2 to 5 players for your single entry. I've had a lot of success recently as I've won a number of pick'em entries. Last Saturday night, we had a $1,000 win. Then during Monday Night Football, I had another $1,000 win as well. Underdog Fantasy also has this exclusive promo for Sunday night, where if you're correct on your Tua Tagovailoa pick'em entry, you're immediately entered to be one of 10 people to win $10,000. Not bad, I'd say. So if you'd like to make the college football season even more exciting and win some money in the process, make sure to sign up on Underdog with promo code Harris for a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. You'll notice a trend in today's video as majority of these are hires. That's mainly because there's just many I like, plus it makes the games that much more exciting. We'll start with the Colorado State game, and if you watched my video from yesterday, you would know that I think this game is going to be an absolute blowout for Colorado. With that being the case, I like the higher numbers for all of these Colorado players: Shedeur Sanders, Jimmy Horn, Xavier Weaver, and Travis Hunter. I think they're all going to have big games, but honestly, you can pick and choose which of the 4 players you'd like to go with in this game. Moving on to the Missouri-Kansas State game, and we're going to start with the Kansas State quarterback, Will Howard, and I like his hire of 218.5 passing yards. Missouri allowed 215 passing yards to Middle Tennessee State last week. In week 1, Will Howard threw for just under 300 passing yards, and he had 250 last week, in which both games were blowouts. This game's probably going to be close, so Will Howard's going to be playing the entire way. He also averaged 233 passing yards a game in 2022. I also like Cody Schrader to go higher than 74.5 rushing yards. He's gone higher than that in both games this season, including a 140-yard performance. The spread is only 3.5 points in this game, so it's going to be close most of the way. Moving on to Illinois and Penn State, and we'll start with quarterback Luke Altmaier, whose completions total is higher than 16.5. So far this season, he's thrown 18 completions and 19 completions. I expect Illinois to be playing from behind in this one, so that means he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. Moving on the other side, I like Penn State quarterback Drew Aller, and on this one, we're actually going to go lower on his 240.5 passing yards. He only threw for 204 yards last week, and this is a game I expect Penn State to really be in control in. The over-under in this game is pretty low, so not a lot of points are expected to be scored in this game. Plus, with Penn State's strong rushing game, they could easily do enough early where he won't be needed to pass as much. With that being said, I also like going higher on both Penn State running backs. Nicholas Singleton is currently at 72.5 rushing yards, while Katron Allen is at 60.5 rushing yards. I think both of these running backs can have big games this weekend. Going to LSU Mississippi State, and there's a lot to like in this game. We'll start with Malik Neighbors, and I think he goes higher than his 73.5 receiving yards. So far this season, he's had 67 receiving yards and 87 receiving yards. Last week, Mississippi State allowed an Arizona player to finish with 160 receiving yards, plus another player finished with 60 as well. Going to the other side, Joquavius Marks has a 98.5 receiving and rushing yards total, and we're going to go higher. So far on the season, he's averaging 125 yards on the ground while averaging 45 yards through the air as well. That's an average of 170 total yards per game, and this current mark is 70 yards lower. Going to Louisville, Indiana, and we got a couple in this one. We'll start with running back Jahar Jordan, who I think goes higher than his 60.5 rushing yards. Currently through 2 games, he's averaging 115 rushing yards per game. He surpassed this number 6 times last season, mainly whenever he got more than 10 carries. Also, Indiana is allowing 110 rushing yards per game. Then on the other side of the ball, I like quarterback Taven Jackson and his 199.5 passing yards. He threw for 240 yards last week, and Indiana is likely going to be playing from behind, meaning they're going to be needing to pass the ball. Through the first 2 weeks, Louisville is averaging 193 passing yards a game, almost exactly at this number. Wisconsin-Georgia Southern has one of the highest over-unders of the entire weekend, meaning they're expecting a lot of points in this game. We'll start with quarterback Tanner Mordecai, and I like his higher of 265.5 passing yards. Last week, Georgia Southern allowed UAB to throw for nearly 400 yards. Last week, Tanner Mordecai threw for 280. So far in his career, Mordecai has surpassed 266 passing yards 18 separate times. Wisconsin wants to throw the ball more, and I think this is their perfect opportunity to do so. Then you go to the other side of the ball in Georgia Southern quarterback Davis Brin, who's currently set at 250.5 passing yards. He's hit that number in both weeks this season. Like I mentioned, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, and Georgia Southern is likely going to be playing from behind, meaning Brin's going to have to be throwing the ball a whole lot. In the Georgia-South Carolina game, the only one I really like is Spencer Rattler because his passing yards is set at 196.5, and I think he should go higher in this one. He's thrown for 350 yards in both games so far this season. I know this game's expected to be a blowout, and this will be the best defense he faces this year, but I think the Gamecocks could score a couple touchdowns. Plus, again, they're likely going to have to be throwing majority of the game, so Spencer Rattler just needs to average 50 passing yards a quarter. We'll go to North Carolina, Minnesota, and start with Minnesota quarterback Ethan Kaliakmanis. He has a 16.5 completions mark, and I like the higher. I expect Minnesota to be trailing and playing catch-up in this game. In week 1 of the season, when Minnesota had a close contest against Nebraska, he had 24 completions in that one. So far on the young season, North Carolina is also allowing 26 completions a game. Going to the other quarterback in this game, I got Drake May's 264.5 passing yards, and I'm actually going to go lower on this one. Minnesota is averaging only 93 passing yards a game, and this will be by far one of the best defenses Drake May faces all season. He only threw for 270 yards against South Carolina and only threw 210 passing yards last week. Going to the Ohio State-Western Kentucky game, there's only one I got in this one, and it's Western Kentucky quarterback Austin Reed. I like his higher of 265.5 passing yards. So far, he's averaging just under 300 passing yards per game. Western Kentucky is a pretty big underdog in this game, and it has a pretty high over-under, so there's going to be a lot of points in this one. Not to mention, if Western Kentucky is able to score a touchdown early or maybe hang around after the end of the first quarter, it's going to give them even more opportunities for Austin Reed to keep throwing the ball. We're going to go to Washington and Michigan State, and like with Colorado, I'm going to do the exact same with Washington in this one. I did this last week, and it was a major success. I think Michael Penix Jr. is going to be putting up insane numbers every week, so essentially, until he proves he's not capable of throwing for a lot of yards, I'm going to go higher no matter what his number says. As of right now, it looks like it's 347.5 passing yards, but we're going to go higher. We're also going to do the same with his 2 wide receivers as well. If Penix Jr. is hitting this number, then both of his wide receivers should hit their number as well, just like they did last week. TCU and Houston is another game with a high over-under this week, so expect a lot of points in this game. If there's a lot of points, well, I'm going to like the quarterbacks in this one. We'll start with TCU quarterback Chandler Morris, and I'm going to go higher on his 264.5 passing yards. Through the first couple weeks of the season, Houston has been horrible in stopping the pass, as they're allowing more than 300 yards through the air a game. Then on the other side, I like Houston quarterback Donovan Smith going higher on his 259.5 passing yards. If you thought Houston was bad, TCU is allowing 343 passing yards a game. If Donovan Smith is slinging it, then I like his wide receiver Sam Brown to reach his mark as well. Currently, his number is set at 74.5 receiving yards. He's hit 100 receiving yards in both games so far this season. Well, those are all the different pick'em entries I like this week. There are so many different ones I did include from so many different games, so if you'd like to sign up on Underdog and check out which pick'ems you like in certain games, make sure to do so. Don't forget to sign up with Underdog Fantasy, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 $10 if you sign up using promo code Harris. Make every college football game that much more exciting, plus you can even win money during the process. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos every day all season, so make sure to subscribe if you love college football. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.